Everybody is not going to be able to see what we do down below, but we've set up a camera here, and I'm going to move myself down below, and we're going to turn on that camera, and I'm going to make some explanation from down there, okay? What we're going to do here is try to simulate an economy. You hold on one second. Dan, Richard, I'm going to ask you to come up here, please, and you're going to be here. You're a hard hat, Richard. Not a hard head, but a hard hat, okay? Can we have, ma'am, can you come up here, please? Would you come up? Leslie, right? Linda, excuse me, Linda, I'm sorry. Linda, I'm going to ask you if you will be, you don't have to wear this hat. I just want you to be a worker, okay? I was going to make you a firefighter. Here, you could take your seat at the table, and I'm going to ask you to just stay off to the side for 1 second, Daniel. I'll get to you in 1 second. Okay, these three people here are simulating an economy. Charles, come up here. You're going to be the banker. Okay? Sit behind here. Yes, here, you set yourself up here. Here's your top hat. And there's
We've never met?
and you can put on that. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this watch. You can look just like Scrooge in that thing, right? Okay, I appreciate your help in this. Now, what we're doing here, all we're doing is simulating an economy at work. Here's three people. They're involved in professions. You could consider them Joe and Joanne Sixpack. Okay, these are just workers here. They're involved in an economy. They go to work every day. When they pass go, they collect their salary. Right? They pay taxes. They make money. They earn money. They're productive. And that's how they get along. And they spend money back into the economy, of course, for the goods and services that they need. Okay, now. I just want they're simulating, they're playing an economic game. Now, let me put my papers down for a second here. I'm going to ask Daniel if he will represent for us the federal government. All three branches of the federal government. Will this fit on your head?
I had no idea.
You look marvelous. Thanks for being a good sport. Okay, now, remember that God gives all branches, he gives all levels of government. He gives civil government. He gives them a jurisdiction. He gives them jobs to do. If you've taken our classes, you know that there's two primary jobs that the civil government is supposed to do. It does many things that we see in our lifetime that it's not authorized to do and that God doesn't give it authority to do. But two things he does give it authority to do. He gives it an authority to defend the borders, right? So theoretically, as this economy is going on, here's Daniel with his sword and his shield. Okay, he has the power of the sword. He can use force. He's authorized to use force subject to God's law and the Constitution, right? Subject to the proper understanding of the rule of law. Here he is. He's the government. He's got authority. Now, in more modern times, the Bible talks about this sword. The shield has actually reduced itself to becoming a badge, hasn't it, in kind of modern times. And, of course, the sword is no longer a sword, but some kind of firearm. Okay? But since the Bible talks about a sword and a shield, he has this authority. He's supposed to, theoretically, as this economy is going on, he's supposed to make sure nobody comes in and kicks over the board, right? So he's a defender. Come on over here, Daniel, and defend. He's a defender. If anybody breaks into the room, if anybody seeks to kick over the table, he is supposed to defend the borders so that these people can peaceably and prosperously go about their business, right? And worship their God, right? He's supposed to defend so that these things can happen. Now, when I was a kid, by the way, he's got one other job. He's supposed to defend the borders, but he's also supposed to do what? What's the other thing the civil government is supposed to do? Administer justice, right? It's supposed to administer justice, not according to what he thinks is justice. He can't make up what he thinks is right and wrong, but according to God's law and according to the Constitution. So when I was a kid, the rules of all games, where were the rules of the games? They were right here, weren't they? That's where you found the rules, right? So He's, in addition to, I'll tell you what, let's put the shield down for right now, okay? Just let's make like you still have the shield, and let's use this. So he still has the sword, his authority in office, and he's got the rules. He's supposed to administer, if somebody has a dispute here, if Suzanne takes $26 instead of $28, or $28 instead of $26 from Marvin Gardens, he's supposed to adjudicate that, right? That's what the civil government is here to do, right? Now, the game goes on. But something changes. By the way, the Constitution says he can't be involved in commerce. He's supposed to be the arbiter of this. But what happens when he sits down? When he sits down at the table? Now, he's a player in commerce, but he's still got his sword, and he's still got the rules. He's still the arbiter of the rules. So what happens when there's a dispute that involves Richard or Linda and Daniel? Who's going to win that? You see a problem? You see problems galore? Do you see the end of the game as we know it? We as a people in the Constitution said he couldn't do these things, but he's sitting down and doing them. And both parties, Democrat, Republican, they've been doing this for hundreds of years, 150 years anyway. Now, let me tell you about what's been happening for the last 100. Now before we go on, just think about, for purposes of illustration, I just want you to think about how this changes everything. He's now the arbiter of the rules. Nobody's going to win anything except him. And is he going to play the game carefully, prudently with his money, would you think? Where does he get his money? He taxes them and then spends it back into the game, right? Now, when he runs out, he just taxes more, right? But how about if his appetite is even beyond what he can tax from these people when they land on luxury tax and when they pick up a card that says pay this tax or that tax? What if his appetite, what if he's got plans and desires that are just beyond that? What if he's a gluttonous, foolish, imprudent, tyrannical piece of dirt? What? Sorry, they just got a little carried away there. But isn't that the nature of man? Please, can I get it? That's what's bound to happen here. Okay. Now, his appetite is so voracious. He spent all the money. He's already impoverished poor Linda and Suzanne and Richard. Okay? And he's run out of money because he spends foolishly. He's lost that, he squandered it, he's lost it. He's out of money, right? What does he do? Aha. Under the board, he has an IOU. He's going to go down the street, maybe just down the hall. Can I ask you to get up for a minute? You can leave your shield and sword there for a second. And take the IOU. It's got these nice little squiggly lines around the back. It says U.S. Treasury IOU with no collateral and hope of ever being repaying the loan. It says that right on the bottom. Okay. Now, he's going to take this piece of paper that he's created. He probably had his secretary do it. And he's going to take it down to Charles. He's going to say, well, don't you look good? Boy, you are a banker. He's going to go down to Charles. He's going to give him that IOU. Now, Charles, here's what Charles is going to do. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do first. Open up a new Monopoly game. There's a certain amount of money that's already in that game, right? He's going to open up another Monopoly game and take that stack of money that's in there. The stack, there's a stack. It's got a rubber band right there. Take that whole stack of money and give him that stack of money. Daniel, you're back in the game. Go ahead back and sit down and, right. Now you're going to do better this time, right? You're going to do better this time, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, okay. But of course, he's not going to do better. His appetite continues to be voracious because what's to stop him from buying everything he wants? Now, here's a point I want to make. We just dumped a whole new stack of money into the game. There was a Monopoly stack of money in the game, however much that was, let's call that X. Now there's 2X in the game. What does Marvin Gardens cost right there? What's the price for Marvin Gardens?
$280.
$280 Marvin Gardens was the value of Marvin Gardens, let's say, the value. Now I'm going to ask you a trick question. Don't answer right away. Now that we dumped the extra, now that we doubled the money in the game, what happened to the value of Marvin Gardens? Nothing. Who said nothing? Nothing happened to the value of it. But what happened to the price? Doubled. It doubled. The value of the price of everything, the value of every piece of every asset on the board stayed the same, but its price doubled. So what happened to the $50 that Suzanne had right here? What's this $50 worth now? 25. That's right, because the value of the price of things went up, but this is exactly what inflation is, okay? When he's able to print money out of thin air with this deal he's got with the banker, okay? He gave him an IOU and he gave him money. We're going to get back to that's the dirty deal, okay? We're going to go back and talk about that in just a second. But when he dumps this into the game, everything now costs twice what it cost, right? But it's not worth anymore. And the value of every dollar that you had in your pocket that you earned is now cut in half. All right? Now, he's hit that debt limit, and that's all gone. What does he do now? Go ahead. Take a trip. Open up another Monopoly game. Get out another stack of money. There's the deal, right? And he goes back to the game. Now what? Now Marvin Gardens is still worth the same. Excuse me, its value hasn't changed, but its price is now tripled, right? And every dollar that Linda earned throughout the game is now worth 1/3 of what it was. Ladies and gentlemen, your dollars now are worth less than 3% of what they were when the Federal Reserve started. 97% has been lost because of exactly this. Now, here's the thing that I want you to walk away with. Here's the takeaway that I want you to see. And forgive me if I'm making a big deal about this, but this was the aha for me. How do these two guys get away with this? How does this work? He's a counterfeiter. He's a counterfeiter. He counterfeits this money and gives it away. What's he get for it? He gets the interest. The loan's never going to be paid back. It's never, ever going to be paid back. But that doesn't matter to him, does it? Because along the way, he's going to get a couple of things. He's going to get interest. And when you pay your taxes, by the way, when you write your check to the U.S. Treasury, where does it go? It goes to a Federal Reserve Bank. It never makes it to the U.S. Treasury. He gets that. It goes to him. Your taxes go to him because he gave them, all of them, him, that printed money that he made out of thin air. Right? So he doesn't get that money back, but then again, he doesn't need that because he printed it out of nothing. He gets the interest when you pay your taxes. And he never gets prosecuted. He never gets arrested. He never gets indicted. He never gets prosecuted. He's an absolute thief. He gets richer every stinking day. He has the force of law. He has the sword and the rules, and he makes you pay that interest. He never intends to pay any of it back. What's he get out of the deal? Is he ever going to audit the Fed? Is he ever going to close the Fed down? Of course not. He's never going to close that down because they got this unholy relationship. He gets free money. Your congressman and your senator, they get free money for all of their all their phony baloney projects. They're never going to close that down. What's he get? He gets the interest. He gets fabulously wealthy on the interest. And plus, he forecloses all the time on things, doesn't he? He forecloses on that house. You think, well, you deserved your house because you deserved to be foreclosed on because you took the money. And then you didn't pay, right? And that while that might be true from a micro point of view, he never did anything but print paper, and now he owns her house. This is a dirty, 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 stinking deal. These guys have a stinking dirty deal. And that's the relationship I want you to understand. When they come on and talk about the Fed stabilized the economy and manipulating interest rates and this and that, forget all of that. That's all window dressing, the reserve window, the foreign, all that stuff. All that's just baloney. It's smoke and mirrors. It's blue smoke and mirrors to cover up this deal. Okay? Now, I asked the question earlier. I'm almost done. You're a good sport. How does this end? What's the end game here? When's he going to stop doing this? When's he going to stop going? And when is he going to stop doing this? When is he going to stop this activity? When? I'm sorry? When the three of them stand, well, we all got to stand up and kick his butt. But no. If he keeps stealing their substance and stealing their substance and stealing their productivity, when does he stop? When he owns it all. When he owns it all, when there's nothing left to steal. Or when when there's revolution, or when it blows up, which is what you have seen beginning in some other countries. And there's no other end game. Every country that ever had a central bank, every economy that ever had a central bank ended in chaos, hyperinflation. It always does. And there's no way for it not to. This is where it goes. Okay, so last point then, he said, was what do we do? What can we do personally about this? Now, we're not going to answer this in great detail just in this session. But I want you to think about how do you get this to not affect you? How do you get this? I don't know how you or I can stop this all by ourselves, but what steps could you take so that it doesn't affect you? When you earn money in this game, when you earn productivity, what would you do? Leave the game. How do you leave the game? How do you get out of this game? Here's one way. You and I, when we trade, when I do something for you and I paint your house, or when you give me a ride in your cab or whatever, or when I buy your produce that you made on your couple of acres or whatever, we start using this. They can't funny money this. If this was the currency in the game and he ran out of it, he can't go get that from him. He can't print this. This has been used, before I dropped it on stage, I was about to say that this has been used since biblical times and recognized as commodity money and value for value. So when I trade this, when I paint your house and you give me, we're trading value for value, not paper for value that you're hoping and praying that some other person's going to be fool enough to take from me later on. But this is this is recognized as what we're calling commodity money as over against fiat money, okay? We got to get out of the game. I'm suggesting to you that we got to get out of the game. We have to stop using their fake, phony, counterfeit currency if you want this not to affect you. Okay. No, I'll keep this. I almost fell for it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a little break. I want you to think through other implications of this, and then let's discuss it when we come back. It's 1:15 now. Let's come back at about 25 after, and let's have about 25 minutes of good conversation about this, okay? We're on break. Thank you. And amen. Isn't that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts? Absolutely. Isn't that what he's going to do? And it's not if it's Daniel, if it's any one of us.